You're listening to Italian American Radio. Talk radio focused on Italian Americans and all things Italian.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Johnny Mandolin Show, broadcasting live on Italian American Radio. This is Johnny Mandolin, and we're here on Italian American Radio, and I'm talking with Francesco Guzzo from Arizona. Welcome to Italian American Radio, Francesco.
Glad to be here with you, John. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. I'm so glad that you could be on the air. And tell us a little bit about you and what's going on there in Arizona.
I'd love to do that. I'm Francesco, as you heard, and I'm from Italy, actually born in Italy, and have been living in the United States, came here via Canada, and somehow landed in Arizona over 10 years ago, and have been here since, and loving the area. Got involved with the local Italian organization and sat on their board for a while, and then eventually became their executive director, and to help build the organization and promote Italian arts and culture, which is what we predominantly do here in the state. Even though most people wouldn't see Arizona as, I don't know, it's kind of hard to envision Arizona being somewhat Italian, but there is a lot going on here in the Italian community. So I'm glad we have an opportunity to talk about that today.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I know a lot of our listeners from all over the United States listen in, and particularly the Northeast, but it's great to hear more about what's going on in Arizona. So tell us about your group and what you do.
So the Italian Association was started just over 10, actually this is our 10-year anniversary. It was started 10 years ago by a group of gentlemen, Italian of course, that wanted to find a way to bring the community together, because what we found, or what we discovered here, is that in as much as there are probably throughout the state, which doesn't sound like a lot, but probably like 200,000 second generation, third generation Italians, and maybe about 20,000 Italians from Italy living in the area, they're all kind of segregated in their own spaces, and because Arizona is pretty spread out. And so they were looking for a way to really bring them together and to celebrate all things Italian, but then at the same time introduce that to the community at large within Arizona. And they started with their first Italian festival back in 2014 with just a couple thousand people that came out to the event, and now it's grown actually in just post-COVID, because we were shut down for a couple of years due to COVID. But post-COVID, we had our first major event this past year in February in Phoenix, where we had 12,000 people come out. They were able to enjoy the 2 days of festivities and foods and beverages and entertainment, and it was great. And it's growing, and now we host one major event in Phoenix, which is actually coming up on March 4th and 5th, is the Italian Festival. And then we've already planned our second Scottsdale Taste of Italy and Music Festival for November of this year in Scottsdale. And both events are quite significant. Just as an example, in March we've got these bandieratori del Palio di Asti coming. There's 16 of them, flag wavers, coming from Italy to perform at the festival. And we're actually, the week right after our festival in Phoenix, we're going to Sun City, which is about, depending on where you are in the valley, 45 minutes to an hour northwest of here. And we're setting up an Italian festival up there for the residents of that area. It's more of a, call it a retirement community. So they really don't leave that area. They prefer things to happen in their neighborhood. And so we're going to go up there, and we anticipate probably about 10,000 people from that area to come through. And the beauty of it is, as much as it's, fun and we get to eat and, enjoy our wines and that sort of thing, but it really exposes people to things that they typically wouldn't see unless they went to Italy or to some other part of the country, where they have a large Italian community. So that's our, our goal, and we're achieving it. And then ultimately to create a community center where we can house, arts and culture and things and educational classes.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, I think that's really great, and I think that it's so refreshing to find out there's this happening in Phoenix and in Arizona. There's a whole a community of Italians out there, and spreading the word and spreading Italian American culture, because that's really important for us to keep it going, to educate our children, and to teach them both the food and the music, but also the customs and the beliefs that we share as Italian Americans in the United States.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, growing up, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. It was always about family. Especially on Sundays, we had that open door policy. I mean, the open door policy was through the week, all the time, but growing up, we never knew who was going to show up. We just knew people would come over, friends, family.
Absolutely.
And there was always food in the house, right?
Yes.
That's how we grew up.
We still do Sunday pasta in my house.
I'm sorry?
I said we still do Sunday pasta every Sunday in my house.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tradition. That's the beauty of those are the things that I miss personally, with my family. And sadly, when I moved to the U.S., about 25 years ago, I didn't see it, and that was the one thing that I really missed, and it made me homesick, and which is why now I still go to Italy and visit with my family every year, but we miss those things, so we're looking to recreate it in some way. And yeah, even though it's a big event with thousands of people coming out, but at the heart of it, it's really about breaking bread with other people, and toasting to to life, really, especially after what we all went through.
Yes.
In 2020.
Yes, it's been very difficult, but you know what? I know the Italian community here in New York City is also very strong, and we still, have events, and there's a lot of organizations. I'm very fortunate every year to open the San Gennaro Feast in Little Italy. I do that every year, and I perform Italian mandolin, and so we try to get the word out both about, the culture and what's going on. And our radio station is just the voice of that. So that's why it's so great for you to share this. Now, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'd love to come out. I still have not made it to one of New York's Italian festivals, whether it's San Gennaro or other Italian festivals. We had a gentleman come out, Biagio Benevenga, who's from New Jersey.
Yes.
He performs all over the state in New York and New Jersey. And he came out to our last event, and, he brought some of that energy here, which I personally just absolutely love. But, and the beauty of it was that everybody that was there, in front of the stage, they were all dancing, singing, because these were all the songs that we grew up with
Sure.
as kids,
Yeah.
And so that was the beauty of it, and it was and I mean, we loved it. It was great.
Yeah, Biagio's great. We have him on the air a lot. We have a show that we broadcast out of Newark, New Jersey called The Wise Guys, and Biagio's on their show all the time. So he's great. I'm glad he made it out there.
Yeah, and he's invited back. So, and so are you. I mean, if I know you go between the East Coast, West Coast. But if you're ever, out this way, come on out to one of our festivals.
I'd love to.
It really is a lot of fun.
I'd love to. I'll bring my mandolin.
And you know what? We'd love it.
That'd
We'll
be
put you
great.
right up there with everybody else.
That'd be great. So tell me about the lifestyle for Italian Americans in Arizona. Do you have Italian delis, Italian bakeries? Do you have Italian restaurants that aren't Americana, Olive Garden?
Yeah, so the Olive Garden is here. So is Buga de Pepe. but and what's interesting is that the Italian festival, one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is that we bring in the true authentic Italian restaurants, catering companies, food trucks, so that they're serving as close to as possible, these true Italian dishes. At this new event, we've got this next event coming up. We have a new vendor that's joining the group, and the Maggiore group. Joey Maggiore is a chef. He's known all over the Valley, and he's expanding his restaurants all over the U.S., really. But he's coming in, and he's like, well, what do you need? I said, we need zeppole. We need something that's really authentic, like, something closer to what we have in Italy. So he's like, beautiful. I'm going to come out. I'm going to bring the fryers. We're going to make zeppole and fried calamari.
Oh,
and, I'm looking forward to eating that stuff. But as far as the restaurants, they really do work at creating these Italian dishes. Now, restaurants are creative. Everybody has their own twist on how to prepare a certain dish, and and I get that. I think it's hard to duplicate the true food that you eat when you're in Italy, but I think Arizona is recognized as having some of the best chefs in the country, not the best, but some of the best in the country, that are really creating these true, authentic Italian dishes, and they're doing quite well. They're successful, and so we get to work with them, play with them, visit them, and and even though they're all spread out, we don't really have like a true Italian center where everybody, there's like one area, like a little Italy, like San Diego or New York, or I think even LA has one. But we're kind of spread out, but at least we're here. And the markets, there's a couple of there's a few of them around, but they're individual retail stores that are kind of spread out. And the push really is, we're working with a couple of groups to see how we can make it happen, is to create one big sort of focused central market that kind of has a little bit of everything that comes from Italy. Because people really do appreciate, the true food that's imported from Italy.
Yes. Well, like on the East Coast, we have Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, and we have Little Italy, Mulberry Street. So there's a lot of, places to go and get your Italian deli or cheese or groceries and things like that. Not so much on the West Coast, although where I live in New York City, but also in Orange County, California, and there's a few Italian grocery stores, and Claro's and Cortina's, where you can actually go and get it. Yes, there's not a Little Italy center like Arthur Avenue, but you can get it. So I think in Phoenix and in Scottsdale in your area, hopefully you have a lot of that, available to go to, even though it's not in one location.
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, and I see it. I know there's another one opening up just sort of on the north end of Scottsdale. She's opening up call it a cafe, so you can go in the morning, have your espresso with, your the croissant, the cornetto, but she's creating a market as well. She's importing the foods, she's importing the dry goods, and hopefully and I haven't met with her in a while, but I'm thinking she's also going to start importing some of the the wares that are manufactured in Italy, because we miss those. Like Bialetti and like the actual products that come from Italy that are made there.
Yes,
that we all love and appreciate. So it's growing, and I think Arizona is in a position where, because Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the United States and still continues to grow, we're going to see more and more people coming in from Italy. We have, I didn't know this until almost a year ago, there's Luke Air Force Base, which is on the west side of the valley here. There's 8 Italian pilots. Actually, sorry, there's 8 of them? 4 Italian pilots with their families that live on the base, and they're instructors. They're teaching, American pilots how to fly and maneuver an F-35, which is the, one of the world's fastest fighter jets. So the Italians are here they're working with the Americans, and these gentlemen are going to bring their families to the Italian festival in March.
Nice.
And they'll be there in their uniform and participate in the opening ceremonies. So we're creating as much as we can of that Italianism in the States. So it's nice to see it, and people really do appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is what's so great, and this is why on Italian American Radio we focus on Italian American organizations all over the country, because we have our own culture. A lot of people don't understand that the Italian American culture is a culture. It's a style, it's music, it's tradition, and if we let it go, it goes away forever. So it's so important to keep it going. That's what our station is all about, obviously, as is your group. And so we look for that. So I'm so glad you're making these efforts to promote Italian American culture and heritage.
Yeah, I mean, again, growing up, my dad and his brothers, my uncles, they used to get together. We'd make our own wine. We'd make our own, prosciutto and salami. Mm-hmm. All the tomato preserves, and we had a fruit cellar or a cold cellar in the basement where we stored all this stuff every year. And, fast forward, I never did it, after I moved out, because it was just, for me, it was easier to just go buy a good bottle of wine. And then now I'm watching my, family's children, second and third generation. They don't care about it. They don't care for it, and that's kind of sad,
Yeah.
And then the language starts to disappear. I've seen my family's children don't speak the language, especially their children. They don't speak it at all.
Yeah.
Because now it's just second and third generation removed, and so now we're losing not only just the culture and the tradition, but the language as well, and that's. For me, it's sad because, Italian is a beautiful language, but the upside is that there's lately, and we just had a record number of students sign up for because we offer Italian language classes online, live every week, 3 semesters through the year, and we've had a record number of students sign up. Just the classes just started this week on Monday, and they want to learn Italian. And there's growing interest in learning the language, and I'm thrilled about that. And not just because we're growing or we're expanding our classes, but just overall there's interest in learning Italian. And so I think all of the work that everybody's doing, not just us, as an Italian association, but all the Italian organizations in the state of Arizona and outside of the state, because there's always crossover from California to New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, and around us, where there is these conversations are taking place, and people hear about whatever it is, all things Italian, and they want to learn or hear more about it.
That's
so
wonderful.
I think whatever the messaging is, like in what you do, John, and how with your broadcasting, over the air, I think enough people are doing it that it's creating this buzz, and people want to know and hear more. So I think it's we're kind of moving that tide in a different direction.
I think that's great. I mean, that's what it's all about, and so appreciated. So Francesco, how can our listeners find you and find your group, your website, or give us some instruction here?
So it's actually super easy. Go to ItalianAssociation.org. Italian Association, all one word, .org. Everything is listed there. Our events, they can sign up for, they can subscribe to our newsletter. We have an online publication we started during COVID. COVID, as hard as it was, helped us kind of reinvent ourselves. So we started an online publication. We started, these online Italian language classes. We have instructors from, ASU teaching Italian. We've got all of our events are listed there. We host, as a matter of fact, this month we have, because it's truffle season in Italy. It's actually almost over, but we're doing a truffle and Barolo tasting in 2 different restaurants, and we have a gentleman who's a 16th generation vineyard owner in Piemonte.
Wow.
He's visiting Arizona, and he'll be bringing some of his, exclusive Barolo wines to the dinners. And so it's a Barolo truffle tasting. And those are the things that we do. Like we're trying to recreate things that typically you wouldn't have unless you were in Italy. We're recreating them here. We host a happy hour every month at a different restaurant, and we usually get anywhere between 60 to 90 people, members and non-members, coming out to meet others that are part of the community. We have Italian business members that are promoting, their businesses to the community as well. So again, everything is hosted on the one website. Our Italian festival is a big thing happening on March 4th and 5th in Phoenix. Then the weekend of the 11th and 12th, we have the festival up in Sun City. And then we've already got our, Scottsdale Taste of Italy planned for early November this year. So everything's on ItalianAssociation.org. All of the details are there. So hopefully, anyone that's interested can go there and find us easily.
Yeah, check it out, listeners, because this is important. And if you're visiting Arizona or you have friends there, you can pass that on. Well, Francesco, I really appreciate you being on Italian American Radio. We got to have you back on soon, and please let us know anything going on. We'll promote it on the air. And thank you for being here on Italian American Radio.
Thank you, John, and thank you for the work that you're doing as well. I know you're putting a lot of effort into getting the word out, and like I said, I think it's working. We just need to do more of it, so I appreciate your time as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You've heard Francesco Guzzo on Italian American Radio, all the way from Arizona. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned. Lots more coming up on Italian American Radio.
You're listening to Italian American Radio. Talk radio focused on Italian Americans and all things Italian.